Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something really critical, especially if you're building AI systems.
Yeah, we're getting into AI ethics in software development. It's a huge topic.
Huge. And we're going to focus on insights from Francesca Rossi. She's a major figure in this space.
Definitely. She's IBM's AI ethics global leader right now. And what makes her perspective so valuable, I think, is her background.
Hmm.
She spent years in AI research, deep academic work, before shifting to tackle these, practical ethical challenges head on in industry.
Right. That transition from academia to industry is key. And her influence, it goes way beyond just IBM, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. She's involved with so many important groups, the European Commission's high-level expert group on AI, the Partnership on AI, the
Right.
Global Partnership on AI,
Hmm.
plus leadership roles in tricky AI. She's really helping to shape the global conversation.
So our mission today really is to unpack her insights. We want to pull out actionable things, key considerations specifically for you, the software developers actually building this stuff, helping you navigate this, let's face it, pretty complex ethical landscape.
Good plan. Let's maybe start with Rossi's own journey, because it kind of reflects what's happening in the wider AI community.
How so?
Well, her move from pure AI research towards focusing on ethics, it mirrors how the whole field has woken up to the societal side of things.
Ah, right. As AI got more powerful, people started realizing, hang on, what are the implications here?
Exactly. And that's why you see this explosion of initiatives now from companies, governments, civil society groups, all trying to get a handle on AI ethics.
And for her personally, there was that time at Harvard's Radcliffe Institute. She calls it transformative.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating. Moving from, very technical AI circles to suddenly being surrounded by historians, philosophers,
Totally
artists.
different perspectives.
And that's the core of it. That experience really shifted her focus from just what AI could do technically to its actual impact on society.
Yeah.
She really hammers home the value of talking to people outside AI philosophers, psychologists, sociologists, to really get the bigger picture.
Which is a great point for developers, right?
All
Because
right.
you can get so focused on the code, the algorithms.
Precisely.
It's
It's about actively seeking out those other views to catch your own blind spots, things you might not even think about otherwise.
Makes sense. Okay, so moving towards building trust. That seems central to ethical AI. And Rossi connects this to business models.
She does. She points out a difference with IBM. Their model is mainly business to business, B2B. They provide AI services to other companies,
Right.
which is different from some other big tech companies whose models might rely more heavily on monetizing individual user data directly.
Right, the B2C versus B2B distinction. So how does that affect IBM's approach to ethics?
Well, their main focus becomes ensuring the AI services they deliver to their clients, think governments, banks, hospitals, are ethically sound.
So the properties of the AI itself become paramount.
Exactly. Things like fairness, transparency, explainability, robustness, privacy,
Hmm.
these need to be baked into the services they provide.
So for a developer working in that kind of B2B space, the ethical requirements might be heavily defined by the client's specific needs and context.
Absolutely. You need to understand how they intend to use the AI and what ethical guardrails they need in place. It's about enabling them to use AI responsibly.
Okay, and this includes tackling bias proactively.
Yes, very much so. They aim to detect and mitigate bias not just in their own work, but also within that whole ecosystem of partners and clients using their tools.
That proactive stance feels like a key lesson for any AI developer. It's not just about building it and hoping for the best.
Not at all. You've got to actively look for potential harms, potential biases right through the development lifecycle, from the data you use to how it's deployed, how it's
So
monitored.
it's embedding ethics into the whole process.
Like security or privacy, ideally, it should be part of the standard workflow.
So how does a massive company like IBM actually manage this? How do they operationalize these principles? Rossi talks about their AI ethics board.
Right. The board is central. She co-chairs it with IBM's chief privacy officer. And crucially, it has people from all the different business units.
Okay, so it's not siloed.
No, and those representatives have actual decision-making power in their units. So the board isn't just making recommendations, it's driving implementation.
That sounds effective.
Yeah.
A way to ensure consistency and awareness across the whole company.
And it provides a model, even for smaller organizations, some kind of central oversight mechanism.
What kind of things does this board actually do?
A whole range. Rossi mentions they develop practical methods and tools for developers.
Oh, okay. Like what?
Like specific techniques for finding and fixing bias, Defining what fairness actually means in different situations because it's not always obvious.
Yeah.
Understanding protected characteristics in data, providing tools. They also create training materials for everyone at IBM, not just tech teams.
And they review new products.
Yes, they evaluate new AI offerings against their ethical principles before they go out the door.
So for you as a developer, this means having clear guidelines, hopefully accessible tools, and a process for raising concerns.
Exactly. The board focuses on making ethics a practical part of the job. They give concrete guidance on, say, checking your training data for skewness.
Like if it underrepresents certain groups.
Right, which could lead to biased outcomes. And they provide techniques to mitigate that, like reweighting data or using specific algorithms. It's about integrating it into the workflow.
And it sounds like it's not purely top-down. There are other layers.
Yeah, she mentioned AI ethics focal points within the business units,
Yep.
sort of like local champions or liaisons.
Sure.
Plus, a network of employees who are just passionate about this stuff and volunteer on projects. It creates a broader culture, not just a mandate.
That distributed model is interesting. It suggests that, ethical responsibility isn't just for the board, it involves everyone.
And that many people want to be involved. For developers, maybe the lesson is to connect with colleagues who share these interests. Build that support within your team.
Good point. Rossi also talks a lot about IBM's external work, their involvement with all those organizations we mentioned earlier.
The Partnership on AI, Global Partnership on AI, the EU, UN, World Economic Forum.
Why is that external engagement so important?
Because these challenges are global and complex. No single company can solve AI ethics alone.
Right.
Working with others, competitors, governments, academics, civil society helps develop shared best practices, maybe influence standards, or even regulation.
So it's about contributing to and learning from the wider ecosystem.
Absolutely. And for developers, keeping an eye on those broader discussions is important because they often shape industry standards and what's expected of you.
Now let's talk about a really specific high-profile example, facial recognition. IBM made a big call on that in 2020.
They did. They completely canceled their general-purpose facial recognition program.
Why? What was the reasoning?
Rossi explains it wasn't just about the tech itself, but its potential for misuse. Specifically, concerns about mass surveillance, racial profiling, violations of basic human rights.
So broader societal risks.
Exactly. It was a very strong statement, prioritizing those ethical concerns and, frankly, trust over a potential market opportunity.
And it went further than just not selling it themselves, right?
Yes. She points out they also decided not to partner with others who might use the technology for those purposes, like mass surveillance, drawing a clear line.
That's quite a stand. And it seems to align with where some regulators are heading, like the EU's AI Act proposal.
It does. The EU proposal flags facial recognition by governments in public spaces as potentially an unacceptable risk. So IBM's position was somewhat ahead of the curve there.
What's the takeaway for an AI engineer from that decision?
I think it's a powerful reminder to think about use cases. Not just can we build this, but should we build this? What are the potential negative consequences, even if unintentional?
Considering the downstream impact.
Right. Are there applications that are just too risky from an ethical standpoint, regardless of the technical feasibility? It forces that harder question.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly and look at the insights aimed squarely at AI engineers, drawing from that IE Spectrum piece featuring Rossi.
Yeah, that article really dives into the evolving role.
How is it evolving?
Well, it's not just about coding anymore. Rossi emphasizes that engineers increasingly need to engage with lots of different people, stakeholders, users,
Yeah.
ethicists,
And understand the societal impact.
deeply understand it. It's becoming a core competency, not just an add-on. Ethical thinking needs to be part of the development process itself.
So thinking about fairness, privacy, transparency, all that stuff needs to be considered during development, not just bolted on at the end.
Absolutely. Like asking, could this algorithm disadvantage certain groups? How can we make its decisions understandable? What are the privacy implications?
And she talks about using tools and playbooks for this.
Yes, tools for testing bias, ensuring privacy, things like that. But, and this is crucial, she stresses that the tools alone aren't magic bullets.
Okay.
You need to understand how to use them properly. And often that means talking to the communities who might actually be affected by the AI you're building.
So technology helps, but it doesn't replace human judgment and dialogue.
Not at all. Communication, collaboration with ethicists, social scientists, potential end users, That's essential for uncovering and addressing the real risks. You might need their help just defining what fairness means in a particular context.
The article also mentions that tension, between shipping products quickly and doing a thorough ethical check.
Ah, yes, the speed versus responsibility dilemma. It's real.
How does IBM handle that?
Rossi points to their central AI ethics board again. Having that dedicated body provides a check and balance. They can take a step back, look at the bigger picture, the potential long-term impacts.
Things a project team under pressure might overlook.
Potentially, yes. The board can enforce a pause if necessary, ensuring ethical review isn't just skipped over in the rush to release. It highlights the need for clear internal processes that value ethics alongside speed.
Okay. And practically, what support is there for engineers? You mentioned tools earlier.
Right. Rossi highlights IBM developing open source toolkits. These focus specifically on things like privacy, explainability.
Making the black box less black.
Exactly. And fairness, transparency. The idea is to give engineers concrete resources, code libraries, guidelines to help them build these principles into their work from the start.
So developers can actually go and find these, use them.
Yeah, making them open source is key. It lowers the barrier for engineers everywhere to adopt more responsible practices. It's a tangible step.
But AI keeps changing so fast. What about new challenges, like with generative AI?
That's a big one. Generative AI brings up new issues, offensive content, chatbots making things up, hallucinations, right?
Yeah, the hallucination problem.
Rossi says IBM is actively developing safeguarding models for this. Basically, systems to check the inputs and outputs of generative AI for harmful stuff, for factual accuracy.
So trying to build safety layers around the core models.
Exactly. And it underlines the need for company governance to be agile. You can't just set rules and forget them. You have to adapt as the tech evolves and new risks pop up.
Like assessing the risks of releasing powerful open source models.
That's part of it too. Governance needs to keep pace with innovation.
And what happens if an AI solution does raise ethical flags internally at IBM? Is there a specific review process?
Yes. Rossi describes a review that goes beyond just the tech specs. They look at how it's going to be used in the real world.
Context matters.
Hugely. They assess the potential impact on things like human dignity, individual agency. It's a much more holistic view.
So not just is the algorithm fair, but what happens when this system is deployed in this situation?
Precisely. And this approach, focusing on the risk of specific use cases, aligns well with frameworks like the European AI Act. It's about the application, not just the abstract technology.
Okay, so wrapping this up,
Yeah.
what's the main message here for software developers working in AI?
I think the core takeaway is that your job is now deeply, fundamentally intertwined with ethics. It's not separate from the technical work. It is part of the technical work.
Yeah, you can't just build the thing and assume someone else will figure out the ethics later.
Exactly. Francesca Rossi's insights really drive home that need to understand the societal impact, to collaborate across disciplines, and for organizations to build in that ethical oversight proactively.
And IBM's own journey, especially decisions like the one on facial recognition, offers a kind of benchmark, doesn't it, for how to navigate really tough ethical choices.
It does. It shows that sometimes prioritizing values and trust means saying no even to potentially lucrative tech.
So the final thought for you, the listener, especially if you're an AI developer. Your work really does have the power to shape the future. Integrating these ethical principles isn't just about compliance. It's about building AI that's genuinely trustworthy and beneficial.
Maybe think about how the frameworks and ideas we discussed, the governance models, the focus on use cases, the need for diverse input could apply to what you're working on right now or your next project. How can you build not just powerful AI, but responsible AI?